President Trump proving he is the self-proclaimed king of debt. Trump's tax cuts and spending bill, in part driving the debt level to its highest level since World War II. Now, this is according to the Congressional Budget Office, which tonight predicts that America's debt is surging to reach about 105% of GDP by 2028. In English, that means we will owe more money than we take in as a country, than we create as a country. And it's shocking this is due to Trump's policies, given what he said about Obama.
You know, our national debt has doubled since Obama became president. And a bad factor, we haven't done anything.
During his regime, during President Obama's regime, we've doubled our national debt.
We owe $20 trillion right now, doubled under Obama, and we haven't done anything.
Out front now, Larry Kudlow, the White House chief economic advisor. Larry, great to talk to you. So, look, the forecast here, more debt than economic output for the United States of America. In anyone's personal life, that would be a disaster.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people have debt. But let's take your thing. The CBO, God bless them, they're very lowball economic growth estimates. Last I looked, and I have not studied this report, but last I looked, they were slightly below 2% growth for the next 10 years. We don't believe that. Our view, as you know, is lower tax rates, particularly business, create incentives to invest and work. I think we're going to pick up productivity and wages. So that gives you an entirely different baseline. Now, I'm not saying the government is sufficiently limited. I don't think it is. I'd like to see a much more modest role for government. That's always been my view. But, you know, I would take a somewhat larger deficit in order to finance long-term growth in the economy, which is how I look at this.
So, you know what's interesting, Larry? In 2009, when the CBO said that the debt would reach 68% of GDP by 2019, and of course now it's saying 105%, so we're way out of that range. But in 2009, the prediction was 68%. And of course, you weighed in on it, and here's what you said.
The families of America, take a look at this budget and these humongous deficits and the doubling of the debt and so forth and the out-of-control spending. Okay, you can't really deny it. Bob Rice defends it on economic terms, but it is a fact. People see this is like a pinball machine on permanent tilt, Steve Moore. This is like a completely out of a line. This is the most unbalanced fiscal story coming out of Washington, really, in our history.
What's changed, Larry?
Well, I'll tell you what's changed.
Other than Rice and Moore switching sides.
No, Bob Rice is a great friend of mine, so is Steve Moore. So, look, the trouble I had with the Obama program was it was all spending. It was all spending, and most of it was not spending for infrastructure. Most of it was spending for welfare programs, social spending. That's not a growth prescription.
Trump just signed a big spending bill.
Pardon?
Trump just signed a big spending bill. He said he didn't like it and wouldn't do it again, but he signed it.
Yeah, well, nothing like the Obama stimulus package, which was, what, $1 trillion at the beginning. So I'm just saying, look, I'm not happy with the government as it is now. I think spending's got to come down. As I said, we need more limited government, much more modest government. I agree with all that. But I think, again, with respect to the Obama years, if he had a growth program, A, we would all be more prosperous today, and B, I wouldn't have fretted about the deficit. I mean, he had a chance to lower taxes. It was under discussion, but he never did.
So in the context of your concern, though, that you've had in the past about humongous deficits, to use your words, out-of-control spending, my question is, whether you have real faith in the man you work for and his belief on this issue, because here is what he has said in the past, Larry.
I'm the king of debt. I'm great with debt. Nobody knows debt better than me. I've made a fortune by using debt.
Are you really on the same page with him, Larry, when it comes to this?
Yes, of course. That's private sector stuff. I'm not going to go there. Look, it's spending that troubles me, and I will just say this, Aaron. We are looking at very significant, what I will call enhanced rescission actions, which will lower spending by a significant amount. I can't give you details yet. It's under consideration.
So this is something not yet to be rolled out, but you're saying that would curb the spending?
Well, it would help. I don't know that it'll curb. It's not the end all, but yes, it will help. And will help to, you know, that lousy spending deal. The president doesn't like the deal. As he said, he wished he hadn't signed it, but he did.
But the reason that there's been a problem here, obviously, since the tax cuts, right, you got to jump, and then there's been a challenge. And we all know part of the reason for that is tariffs. and a mixed message on tariffs and whether they're going to be imposed and whether they're not. The threats between the U.S. and China have a lot of farmers they're really concerned, right? I've spoken to a few of them. Here are two.
Well, I grow more than 100,000 bushels a year, so a 50-cent reaction is $50,000. So that's a big deal.
How much will these tariffs cost you, Tim?
Well, the U.S. sells $1 billion worth of products to China. That equates to about $7 per head marketed in the United States. So our farm markets 5,000 head a year. That'll equate to about $35,000 for our farm.
So, Larry, I don't know if you could hear him clearly, but he said $35,000 for his farm. That was a hog farmer. The soybean farmer said $50,000 a year for his farm. Look, this could be devastating for a whole lot of people. What do you say to them?
You know, look, with all respect to that gentleman, I don't know how he arrives at that position. And I don't know what kind of economic growth projections he's got for the farm area. That's going to matter a lot. Our Secretary of the Agriculture has said farmers are patriots if it came down to that. But let me just go back for a second.
But when he says that, what does he mean? Is Sonny Perdue saying a great patriot, so you're just going to eat it?
There are no tariffs. Let me say this. There are no tariffs at the present time. There are proposals, there are discussions, but there are no tariffs at the present time. We'll see in a couple of months whether our tariff issues work out or not. We'll see if China responds. So far, they've responded unsatisfactorily. But I hate to predict the future, and I hate to see you and others make the case that the worst is going to happen. We don't know any of that just yet on the economy or how the disposition of this conversation will be.
Larry, before we go, part of the reason I asked you this, though, is you've always been such an honest person and a person of integrity. And on the night when the market went up and then the president threatened $100 billion in additional tariffs on China, you were asked about it the next morning. When did you find out? You took a long pause. Let me just play it so people can see it.
When did the president first tell you that he was going to announce these additional potential $100 billion in tariffs?
Last evening.
You took that pause and you answered the truth, Larry, because that's the kind of person that you are. But my question to you is, do you have confidence? Do you have confidence that the president doesn't really want these tariffs, that he's going to listen to you, that he's going to do the right thing?
Well, I'm not necessarily. Let me just back up again.
Okay.
Look, China has had unfair and illegal trading practices for 2 decades or longer, and particularly in the technology area, as you know. Forced technology give-ups, unlawful transfers of intellectual power. We can't let that. You can't steal our intellectual authority. So something has to be done, okay? So when you say tariffs, I don't know if it'll be tariffs, but the president is correct. He's got a backbone. Prior administrations would not do anything with China, and Trump is out there saying, wait a minute, we are going to unveil this and unmask this. If you negotiate with us, we may not need the tariffs, but Trump may use tariffs. I want to make that very clear. And I think he's in the right. China's broken all the laws of the trading and the WTO. You know that too, Aaron. Somebody at some place has got to say, we are the most innovative entrepreneurial country, the U.S., but you can't just steal our technology. You can't just steal that. So we have to do something about it. So I will tell you honestly, yes, I heard the announcement. It was late that evening. Okay, fine. It doesn't matter to me. In terms of the overall program, I think Trump's on absolutely the right track here. And at the end of this, I call it the end of the rainbow, there could be a lot more economic growth with more real free trading conditions, which we don't have. More growth, not just for the U.S., but for the whole world, including for China.
All right. Well, Larry Kudlow, thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.